Hello doll friends, this is Michael Canadas with the Carmel Doll Shop and Grovian Doll Museum. Today we're going to give you a special treat. Those of you that are working on our new project, Fanny and Friends, we've decided to do a virtual sewing class. Now, I cannot sew and film at the same time, so I had to think who could do this? And there's one person that came to mind, and that is Jeffrey Cook. Jeffrey Cook came to a class that we had a few years ago, and really, by the way, he didn't need to do a class. He is a master sewer, and it has been fun to watch him blossom and really start to have a fabulous career. So we are really honored to have him today. So come in, Mr. Jeffrey, Mason Jeffrey, and he got to pick whatever costume he wanted to do in this program. So this is the one you picked. So how are you feeling about it now that you see it in life? Are you ready for it?
Oh, I'm ready. I didn't realize there were so many sequins, but yes, I am ready for it.
Well, that's, not everything is, sometimes it's the little subtle things.
Yeah.
So we are going to start to sew, and I hope you enjoy this. One thing I will tell you about this project, that if you can do this one, you can do any of them. So basically the instruction for this is basically the instruction for all the rest of them, with a few little things that are changed here and there. So are you ready to sew?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm rolling up my sleeves. Let's go.
Now you might get some sound effects during this program. It's not our stomachs. We have Louis, Bixby and Annabelle in the building, so they're here throughout. It's just something that we have to deal with. And Jeffrey's getting used to it. So
I love them.
we're gonna start to sew. All right, so we'll see you in a minute. Bye-bye, friends.
Bye-bye.
Good morning, Mr. Jeffrey. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Canadas. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Did you get a good night's sleep?
I did.
Did you dream about this project?
I dreamt about it. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and started to practice. But no, I'm very excited. So thank you for having me.
I know your skills. You did not need to practice.
Thank you.
So, shall we look at the project? So, when you work with a kit, what is the first thing you do?
Well, of course, I always read the instructions. It's very important. And actually, I read these through yesterday, and I think it's going to be really easy. The underwear is very simple, very straightforward.
So we're going to start with the underwear.
We're going to start with the underwear.
So you're going to do what I do not enjoy doing the most first.
Of course.
Which is a very good idea, because it's not, the costume is not going to fit.
Exactly.
Without the proper way, without having the underwear.
And I think, the beautiful thing about this pattern is that it is very simple. I mean, it's basically one piece, very simple shoulder straps. It also has a separate pair of pantalettes. Very, very simple construction. I think the great thing about this, Michael, is you've designed in such a way that someone could make this in a different fabric if they wanted to. They could add insertion, they could add pin tucks, they could add lace. You could really just let your imagination run with this.
And we've done this in cotton. And in the period, it could be done in silk, it could be done in China silk, it could be done in a light satin type of material, it could be embellished with, embroidery, roses, laces.
Yeah, this is the start of the age of the lingerie.
Yeah, but we wanted to just do a basic thing that if someone wanted to do all 15 or 16 or 25 or whatever costumes, they could knock out a whole bunch of basic undergarments.
Exactly.
And then if you want to really have a challenge, then you go and you do Timothy's, phenomenal
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
I've been studying those, and just a beautiful
and
design.
it actually could work. Some things could interplay.
Yeah.
Now I'm approaching this. His is a little earlier time period than ours. And I'm approaching this that these young ladies are no longer wearing corsets.
Oh, mm-hmm.
I mean, not all of them gave up the corsets, but a lot of them did. And so the dress actually became part of the undergarment.
Yeah.
So they're very basic.
And also, I think if you just see, there's no sort of like waistline seam here. It's all really just hanging from the bust line, because that is the line of this period. It's very streamlined. It's not about bulk.
Right.
So some of the things that we're going to do today when we put this together are about minimizing that bulk and just sort of
But
creating
we
the silhouette.
did do one thing that's adds a little bulk, and you don't have to do it. But if you the lace that's hanging from down is actually, it works as an enhancement to her bosoms.
Little bosom and bust
Yes,
enhancer.
yes.
So again, read your instructions very carefully. And as in all Carmel kits, which is wonderful, they've provided this very helpful layout to show you how to place your pattern pieces on the fabric. The fabric size is already set here. This is a suggested layout, but it's really I find this very helpful when we're working on these projects, just to make sure you're getting the most economy out of your fabric. And it's all been figured out for you, which is wonderful.
I find that there's a lot of people have asked for that early on, and it is actually very helpful. Now we're going to go in and make this straight up, but you know, if you're feeling wiggly, it is always a good idea to make a mock-up.
Yes. I mean, this is very simple. I think that you're really talking about a lot of straight seams here. There's nothing, I think, that is impossible to do.
Yeah.
So.
And if they did mess this up, we could get them fabric.
Oh yeah,
I just don't want them going in on the, you know, the silks and things if they're not really comfortable.
Yeah, but I think that you're going to do really well with this. It's a very straightforward, very simple design. And you can use the machine or hand sewing or a combination of both, because as Michael said in the pattern, it was circa 1914 they were using machine and also using hand sewing. So it's really what you feel comfortable with.
And the question is, are you really comfortable with that machine, or
You know
is it
what?
scaring you?
It scared me a little bit. I was telling you that I have one that I haven't even unboxed yet, and have not tried it, but Leo showed it to me, and I'm trying to make friends with it. Mm-hmm. We're trying to be friends now.
I think Angela told you that was an evil machine and you're afraid.
She didn't say anything about that. I mean,
we were having troubles when she was here.
Yeah, so I mean, I tried it out this morning. Hopefully we won't have any problems, but I think that it would make this much faster. I think for finishing, you'll see that I prefer to do things by hand for hems and such, but for these straight seams, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to use the machine.
Yeah, and that would be totally correct for the time period. Correct.
So should we start cutting out, or do you want to look at the kit components?
Well, I mean, do you want to? I mean, I think the one thing that I like to have people is before they cut out anything is to check their kit to make sure that it has everything, and they get a list and everything's numbered.
Yes.
So all you do is count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And the most important thing is once you've done that, put all the pieces back.
Oh, yes.
Because I tried to be organized, but I can't tell you how many times things go missing, and then...
Well, in classes.
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't get it.
I didn't get it. But, you know...
we make mistakes. We're not...
But very rarely. I mean, everything should be in here. So the first thing that you're going to want to open up is your cotton piece. So that's really the only fabric that's coming with this kit is one piece of this fine cotton. I mean, I like to sometimes pre-treat the fabric, especially for whitewear. I might want to spray starch it, but in this case, I don't think you really need to. I mean, would you do that, Michael? What would you do?
I would probably not with this fabric.
Yeah, it's very...
I mean, I've worked with plenty of rotten fabric that I've had to do something to it, but this is pretty... I would just mist it and iron it a little bit, and that's all I would do.
So let me clear this away here. And we're going to follow the pattern instruction in terms of the layout for the fabric. Which is
we're going to see if it actually works.
We're going to see if hopefully it does work, but I think it probably will work. So I'm going to stand up because...
You cut standing up?
No, I iron standing up. And this is just wonderful. Ever since I bought this from the shop, I've thought it's just brilliant.
You know what? I don't know what I did without it.
Yeah, and this sucker gets hot.
It does, and it's quick.
Oh, quick.
And then it does turn off because I'm giving you a nice fresh new mat, but mine that I use has little burn marks, but it burns enough, and then it shuts off.
Yeah, and the spray bottle too. I think I have the same one. Maybe it's slightly different, but
And
this
I
is
love
great.
those, too.
Oh, I love it. And I will admit, and I know I shouldn't admit this, I do use a steam iron. And Michael, you were totally right. I was working on a project. I won't say what the project was because I fixed it, but the iron regurgitated, and it spit up on this beautiful satin, and I was lucky that I had some other satin that I could replace with it.
Yeah, I don't take the chance.
I know.
I know we have Cheryl Williams gave us a fabulous iron,
Which
and it
I
doesn't.
bought.
Yeah, but it's a beast too. It's a big iron.
It is a big iron, but it's a really inexpensive iron, and it
and
gives
it's a good
you
iron. But
gorgeous
I
steam.
still love my Cricut.
Yeah, the Cricut's wonderful. So, what I'm going to do now, and I don't think we have to film me doing all of this if you don't want to, but I'm going to cut this out, and I know that you have a way of doing this. The way that I have of doing it is by cutting around the pattern, not on the line. I don't use my fabric scissors when I cut this out in the fabric because I don't want to dull them. But if you don't like that, you can cut out on the line. I just tend
We're
to...
going to cut it out the way you cut it out.
And then you can tell me, that's not the way I do it.
All right. So shall we cut out the pattern, and we'll come back and show them the pinned up version of what we're going to do.
That sounds great.
Okay?
Okay. So we've laid out our pattern pieces on the fabric, and you're going to notice that this isn't exactly like this pattern layout. The pattern layout really is to show you that with this size fabric, you can get every single piece out of here and have some left over. So I'm doing it a little bit differently.
Because you're a unique individual.
Because I just like to make things more difficult. No, I mean, because I think it's just
easier for you.
Yeah, when you've got folds and you can cut things on folds rather than having to cut them twice. But again, this is just a guideline showing you can get everything you need out of this one piece of fabric. So don't be concerned about it. So what I like to do is I like to cut the fabric. Well, I'm using my fabric shears, which I said I wasn't going to do. I like to cut the pieces out, and then because I'm a little, is that nearsighted, farsighted? I actually hold it while I cut it. So I'm cutting right on the line, and I'm also a little particular. I like to get rid of my scraps. I don't like to see scraps hanging around. So you're cutting out, which is probably not the most exciting thing in the world, but you're getting a nice clean cut on that line.
And you're using your paper scissors to cut this out.
I only use my paper scissors to cut patterns and fabric. They're pretty sharp. I've kept them pretty well. So I'm going to continue cutting this out, but I'm going to show you once you've cut this out, and I don't think we need to film all of that, you've got two pieces here. And since we don't want to be wasteful, every little bit of this can be used for something else, like a hat lining or a mignonette dress lining. I'm going to lay this
Sure, because
like so.
that's a nice amount of fabric.
It's a nice amount of fabric, and why waste it? I don't know about you, but with Celine, I have found so many uses for scraps.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
she is a great one for like 4 inches of fabric.
Yeah, and you're not cutting into something for it. You've got it right there, and you're being very Victorian by not wasting.
Well, I think I'm probably
So we'll let you
partially
cut this all out, and then we will come back and show the results, and then I will grade you on your cutting
Oh boy.
skill.
Oh boy.
Okay, we'll be back.
Thank you. So from the magic of photography, we've gotten this all done in a second. But I think what we want to show you is that all the pieces are cut out. You have all the quantities that you need for each, and you've got this great amount of fabric left. So, you could use this. Michael was telling me I shouldn't throw out the very small pieces, but
Well, that's just me.
it's just you. But these would be great. I mean, and if you make a little mistake here, obviously lay everything out before you start cutting. That's the most important thing to make sure that it works. It will work, but you can probably get a little bit, an extra front, back out of these
Yeah,
pieces.
if you make a mistake.
An extra waistband.
Yeah.
But save these pieces. put them in a,
No, those
in a
are
bag.
valuable commodities.
Yeah, I'll be taking these home.
Of course. You
So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to seam together the front and the back at the side seams.
And this appears very confusing, except that when you see it, you'll understand what we're doing.
So this is basically how this lays out. Make sure I got that the right way up, and I'm working upside down. Okay, so what you want to do is you've got a straight back, you've got curved sides, so you know which side you're working with. You want to match them curve to curve. And again, you can do this by machine. I'm going to try doing it by machine.
Okay, that'll be exciting.
Oh yeah, won't it? Until I run over some needles and then they're screaming. It's a good thing we're both
They're
wearing
small
glasses.
pieces so that you don't have to overpin it.
No. You know, I was telling Michael that I really only do hand sewing because I feel like it's so much easier to control. But, you know, the guys who work here do and the ladies do amazing machine work.
They do, and they do amazing.
Handwork
But
as well.
sometimes it's not appropriate to do it by hand.
Yeah.
And I'm only going to require you to do one thing by machine. The rest of it's going to be your choice.
Okay, let me put
So
this
we're
light
going to do a
on.
1/8 of an inch seam allowance, correct?
Yes, 1/8.
That's what the directions say.
So this is a little tip that might be interesting for you. I think on fabric that's this fine, sometimes it gets sucked up into the machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this very, very fine tissue paper almost as a backer. And you're going to start your seam a little bit early, right before. There you go. See? So basically the fabric is sort of helping you. There we go. Doesn't matter if the fabric tears, you're going to tear it away anyway. See, the fabric is actually...
fabric we don't want to tear. You know, the tissue.
The tissue.
The tissue.
The tissue. So what you're basically doing is you're using this tissue as a backer just to help you
Get it-
stabilize the
yeah,
fabric.
Go in.
Yep.
And then the feet can pull it through.
And so then you're just very gently pulling
Pull
it
it
out.
away.
Yep. And then you've got a seam. I probably would go with a little bit smaller stitches, but we can do that on the next one. Let's make that a little bit smaller. And get rid of our pins here.
So you got it?
Yep.
All right.
Now it worked. So I'm glad
Tissue.
that I learned this little trick because that happens at home all the time.
Well, I mean, you couldn't use a paper towel, or you have to really use a tissue.
Tissue,
paper.
yep. I'm sorry, Michael. Let me just get these pins out of the way here. Okay, and you can reuse that same piece of tissue, you know, as many times as you want. You don't need a whole sheet of it. You just need a little bit. So again, you're starting your seam a little bit.
And how many stitches per inch are you using?
I think this is 10.
Okay, that's a good.
Yeah, I
That's a
think
good scale for this.
previously I think it was a little bit larger than 10. Okay. Come on. Rosie doesn't like me, Michael. I don't know what you told her about me. She's fighting me.
You've got to get to know her.
She was good with me earlier today. I don't know why. She wants to act up and show everybody she's the boss.
You know,
She's a strong woman. Okay.
she has her favorites here. What can I tell you?
Okay, we're just going to get rid of that. And then we are going to press these seams open. Now, this is one thing just to talk a little bit about. You know, this is a small seam. This is 1/8 of an inch, or maybe even a little less than 1/8 of an inch, but it's a small seam. So I think that, you know, in terms of finishing, you're going to see that this gets turned in and is facing the top of the skirt portion of this. So you really don't need to overcast it. You could pink
No.
it if you wanted to, but
You could, but it is really not going to be seen because it's going to be really folded over, so it's not.
so
I mean, you could overcast it, but I don't think it's so small. I wouldn't.
yeah, or you can like pink it if you wanted to.
Yeah, that could work too.
Or you could actually cut these, I think this is probably still hot, yep. You could actually cut these pieces out with a pinking shears.
To begin with.
Yep, save yourself a step. And I'm gonna trim those loose threads, even though we're gonna trim them off at the end anyway. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew together our front and our back at the side seams. Get rid of these pieces of pattern. So you see it's really simple, just very simple lines. Okay. So you've got your front on the fold. You might want to give that just a little bit of iron just to make it press out nicely. There we go. Okay. And so they're going to see that basically the shape at the top of this is echoed in the shape of this. So do you see how that works? It's going to be turned out, it's going to be encapsulated at the top. You're going to put your straps on, tack them in place first, and you'll see that.
It looks like an old milk bottle.
It looks like an old milk bottle, but it's going to fit beautifully when it's done. So we'll just pin this. I'm actually going to use that tissue trick, but not for the entire seam, just to start the thread. And Michael, you'll tell me if I'm not going in the right order, I hope.
I think, well, it's not, yes, you're going in the right order.
I don't have.
I can't remember anything, so,
I can't remember anything either.
It's like I've never seen this piece before in my life.
Okay.
No, you're going in the right order.
Okay, so I'm just going to use this just to start this seam. So you're seeing how it's helping to pull.
Oh, it makes such a difference.
Yeah, it makes such a huge difference. Come on, Rosie, be a good girl.
She's working.
Don't fight me. I love you. Okay. If I was at home, I'd be writing over all of these needles. But I'm not at home.
You know, it almost never does. I mean, it would be very rare that it would happen here. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it would be very rare.
Okay. There we go. So you see, we just tear that away like we did before. It all comes out.
It just makes it so much easier.
Oh my God, it's so much easier. And we're gonna.
And that, I mean, that's a lot of people that work with China silk, and they do it by machine.
Oh
That's
my
how they do
goodness,
it.
can you
Because
imagine?
otherwise, you really can't get it to start. It
No.
just goes down that little.
We don't want bulk in this, so I think what I'm going to try with this, and these are not my pinking shears, I'm just going to pink this seam a little bit.
But you could, if you wanted to, you could add a little to this
The seam allowance, yeah.
seam allowance, and you could do a French seam if you wanted. There's a lot of ways you could do this.
Yeah, and I think from a stability standpoint, they probably would have used the French seam a lot.
Yes, they definitely.
Okay.
But we're making these just.
For a tiny little lady.
And people don't, you know, it's hard to imagine that she's really only an inch bigger than Barbie.
Yeah. So, you know, this should really be opened. And because it's such a tiny little seam, you might just want to start it a little bit.
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
And it actually looks pretty.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a decorative.
It's pretty.
I'm going to use my scissors just to open up.
Clean it up a little bit here and there, open it.
Yeah, open it. And those are Leo's. He needs to sharpen those. But don't tell him I said that.
Which ones with that?
The pinking shears.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, you know.
They're a little,
Things get used here.
oh my gosh, how they get used. You should see that workroom upstairs. It is a hive of activity.
They'll get to see it on television.
Oh, that's right.
Can't tell you when, but
Oh,
I'm
that's-
not allowed to tell anybody.
Oh, that's top. Yeah, that's a top secret thing.
Yeah, but they'll get to go all kinds of places in the building that they've never seen.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. Okay, now work with me a little bit here. Little seam.
You've got it.
You know, it's looking a little rough and ready, but again, you can finish this however you want. And you can overcast it, but the important thing is you just don't want bulk.
No, I mean, we've done some things, when we get to the dress, to not avoid the bulking.
See, I mean, if I was going to be
I think that
completely
looks really
crazy,
nice.
I would clean that up, but
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not going to be
you can
crazy.
do that when you get up at 4 in the morning. You can sit and you can go back and take those little scissors and make it all perfect.
Oh yeah, that's what I do at 4 o'clock in the morning. Is I take my little scissors and I cut things up. Try not to make noise. I don't want to wake anyone in the house
Well,
up.
you can't wake up anybody here, so don't worry about that.
Well, I guess.
So we're going to sew that up, and then we're going to come back and show everybody the next step.
Great. So what's very important about this is to make sure that you're fitting it to your doll. Because I think, as we were saying, each one of these is made from a mold, but they're all little, they're individuals. And you might want this to hang a little bit lower in terms of the shoulder straps, because she might be wearing something which has a very low décolletage. So you want to put it on your doll.
Particularly like Black Cat is very plunging.
Very plunging. She might be more daring. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pin it at the back. Make sure you have it approximately at the place that you want it in the front. And then, this is upside down. You're going to want to pin it in the location. You're going to do pinning first, and then you're going to baste it with a little basting stitch. So we just want to see, does that feel like it's in the right place? Let's look here. Okay. I'm just going to pin it to the back, and I'll remember that location when we turn it over. Okay, so let's look here. It feels about right.
That looks very good.
Yeah, it feels about right. And then we're going to do the same thing. You're just going to eyeball it. You don't have to measure anything. This is all just by sort of your sense of...
Yeah, if you're doing a suit, you're going to probably do something a little shorter straps.
Yeah, maybe she's got an evening set of unders and a day set of unders. Okay, I think that probably needs...
And these are very utilitarian straps. I mean, they could use a beautiful piece of ribbon.
Or some lace, I think. Insertion would be beautiful. A little ribbon run through it.
Or if they want to do a little a channel out of the same fabric, they could do that. They want to cry all afternoon.
Yeah, and they're going to cry all right. One thing I also just want to say is that this fabric is very fine, and it frays a little bit. So just try not to handle it as much as I'm handling it.
You gotta be, don't sit and
Work it
fuss with
over.
it, or, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we do sell products that help with that, but it's best to not
Okay.
have to use that. I
So-
think that's really good.
So I think it feels like it's in the right place. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to know that I have a little seam allowance back there. I'm just going to mark with a pin where this should go. I'm going to let it hang loose. I'm going to mark a pin where it should go here.
Because you can encase it in the front or the back, wherever you like, but I think it's probably better to do the hand part in the back.
Oh, I was thinking we encase both sides. You're only encasing...
You could, sure.
Well, that's interesting.
No, but you absolutely could.
I like Michael's suggestion better because it's easier.
It's easier.
And then you could really get your fit exactly
Yeah, then you
the way
can do
want
it. I mean, according to these instructions that I wrote, you do it after you just encase the front.
Okay. Well, you know what? That's a much easier way of doing it. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to encase the front. We know that we need to turn this over, and then you can get a perfect fit on the back.
Yeah, then you can just do that with a little beautiful little hand.
Yeah.
And then you do a little crisscross.
And this actually gives you a little bit of a better sense of positioning too. So as I'm looking at this flat, I think I'm going to move that in a little bit so it's more symmetric. Maybe move this one out a little bit. Yeah. You know, it's a lot of eye work, and we can take those pins out. See that? Now, Michael, would you base this, or would you use your pin as a base?
I would just do a couple little stitches.
A couple little stitches? Okay.
Because
So-
then when you start to, then you can remove that pin and you don't have to.
Yeah, it's a little bulky. So as I said, guys, I'm really more comfortable doing things by hand because I feel like I've got more control and the machine's not going to eat things up. But this really makes sense to do with a machine.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of this that. But you could do this garment. I mean, we're doing a very, very basic, but you could really doll this up with a lot of,
Oh, yeah.
and we might do that. Just
Think of a Ziegfeld girl. I mean, they
Oh,
had a
yes.
lot of stuff going on there. Let's turn this off so you don't have to hear that.
roses and flowers and
Yep.
cherubim
Feathers.
and,
Okay. So what you're basically going to do now is you're going to match right sides together. Your top, you're interfacing with the top of the bodice.
But I think we should need to hem the bottom piece first before we match that up. So that should be the next step that we should do. Is that what I have recommended? Let's see what I say.
It's always good to read the instructions.
Okay, we're doing something a little different. In the, which you are of course welcome to do it. In our pattern, we just pinked the edge that hangs down. But you want to hem it.
I do want to hem it.
Okay,
you know.
so then we have to do that right now.
Yes, so basically, and I'm not sure if you can see with my little fingers in the way. Of course, I need the iron again.
What kind of seam allowance are you going to do?
You know, I'm just going to turn it over and not even an eighth.
16th?
Yeah, maybe it's a 16th. It's just very slight. And then I'm going to turn it again and I'm going to hem it.
Okay, so it'll be totally, we're going to lose
Yeah.
an eighth.
You're going to lose about an eighth, maybe a little bit more than an eighth. And you know, it doesn't have to be, no one's going to be seeing this. It's all going to be behind the main bodice.
And you know what I think we should do, since you're breaking the rules of the pattern? Why don't we put just a straight piece of lace on it?
Oh, I love that idea.
On it, just to make it look pretty in the inside.
Oh, I love that idea. Okay. So the way I normally do this, it's not really a rolled hem, but I'm going to start, I don't even sometimes even knot it because this is going to be inside your seam.
Yeah, that's not going to show.
Yeah, so you just sort of start it a couple of times. And then when I do, is I pick up a little bit, and again, this is very fine fabric. Just pick up a little bit. And I don't have to tell you guys how to hem. You've been doing this for years.
Now we've got a lot of people that have just started and they are beginning and they need to know. So
Yeah.
So you're just doing a little hemming stitch.
Just a little hemming stitch.
And just a little tiny, and you're doing. You move fast.
Oh, I can't stand this. When you get these little knots. You know, I think
It only happens on camera.
it only happens on camera. I think you had said once that Louise Hedrick said that you stress your thread.
Oh, I stress everyone and that I come in contact with.
What does that mean? I've been...
Because I can tell you're stressing it because your thread is too long.
Oh, because you're pulling too much.
That piece is too long. Mm-hmm.
You know, I am guilty of that.
Yes.
I don't like to thread my needles.
Well, it'd be easier with a shorter piece, and you wouldn't have that. Because remember, it's all going, that whole piece keeps going through those sewing holes.
Oh, yep. And that's where it catches up.
Yep. But we're doing it your way.
My way or the highway.
As David would say, thread is not the only thing you stress.
Oh, I think my other half would say the same thing too. But he tends to leave me alone when I'm sewing.
It's kind of a nice... There's a lot of other things you could do for therapy than sewing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think you've got this.
Yes.
So and you can, everybody can see that Jeffrey is a fast sewer.
Well,
All right, we'll come back when this is done in about 5 seconds.
so you finish the hem. It's just a narrow hem. Again, you
Nice.
can do this by machine if you want. Again, I'm not going near her again. She's it's not liking me
I thought
today.
you were friends.
Oh, well, I'm trying to be. I think I have to buy her some jewelry. So this isn't in your pattern, but it might
This
be.
is a basic. This is a basic. That means
It's a basic. So you can embellish it however you want. It might be nice to apply a straight piece of lace.
And you'll have enough in your kit to
You'll
do
have enough
this.
in your kit to the bottom of this piece.
I like that.
Yeah, I think it's actually very
I
feminine.
like the utilitarian of the pinking, but I like the idea of this as just plain.
Just so something that, Flora and Fanny and their friends will know is there, but the public will never see
No,
it.
they will not know that.
So I'm just going to do a running stitch.
Now, are you going all the way through, or
I'm
you just,
going all the way
okay.
through. Because,
Of course, it's not going to be
no one's
seen.
going to see it, so you don't have to hide those stitches. So I'm just going to do a couple of stitches and show you how that might look, and then I'm going to show you something else. That would be,
Because you had an idea.
oh, yeah.
Just an idea.
I had an idea. You always like to kick
Kill
it up.
that lily.
Kick it up a notch. Okay, so you're just going to keep applying that to bottom, and if you really want, you could even have it a little higher up so you don't see that hem, but you just want this to feel like it's a delicate little treatment. So as we were looking at this, we thought it might really be pretty to take the lace, and you're going to have enough lace in your kit, and enclose
The strap.
in the lace. So it's a little bit of a feminine touch, that they would have done in the early 20th
And I
century.
think we really do need the strength of the tape rather than a piece of ribbon and that can fray and whatnot. But this will make that tape even stronger with this
So
applique of the ribbon.
yeah, it's very pretty actually.
Can
So
you turn it so they could see how it's going to look?
sure. So that's the back. And what you're going to do is you're going to want to fold it over your tape just to get a nice crease, and that will be your front.
And I think with this garment going on this doll, that if a little bit of that edge, that beautiful decorative edge showed, that would be okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, kind of similar to what was going on earlier, or in the mid-19th century. A little bit of the undergarment showing wasn't considered to be scandalous.
No, it was
You showed your linen that it was white.
yes, and that you had gorgeous laces.
And you have gorgeous laces. So I'm just going to do a running stitch along the edge here. It doesn't have to be minuscule mouse stitches. It can be large because no one's going to see it, but I don't do really large stitches. So we're going to just do a very simple running stitch just to keep these layers together. And once that's in place, I'll do the other one, and then we'll show you the encapsulation. Sound good, Michael?
All right, we will be back.
So last time we were together, we were talking about encasing the cotton straps, which you can see here plain. And again, this is your own.
You don't
whatever
have
wanna
to,
do.
but if you feel like
We
playing.
just thought it might really be pretty. And encase it. This really is giving the garment strength. It's like, how you use it along the waistband of some earlier garments. It gives it strength. One other thing I wanted to point out, and I can't believe I just noticed this, is this lace has a right and a wrong side. So maybe you could see it here. This is the right side.
it has a slight three-dimensional.
It does, but if
feature.
you look here, you can see some little nubs.
Yeah, and the nubs are the wrong side.
Yes, which I applied to this piece. So, we always learn, but I saw that. So basically, this is your bottom here. This is your right side. So what we're going to do is we're going to pin.
But I think, shouldn't we be doing this side seam here first before we do that?
Well, let's look at the directions.
Yeah,
Well, I think that would be helpful.
I think we should, at least, I think we should do at least the one fold, but maybe I'm wrong.
You know what? I think you're right.
Okay, so
Yes.
we'll do the side seam and then we will do that.
Yeah, so basically what you're going to be doing, and it is the center back seam, and I believe that you're going to leave it open approximately 3 inches from the top. So what I like to do, and I'm sort of addicted to these pens now, and I don't believe this comes back, even though some people say it does, I use a little dot of this Frixion pen.
And that's small enough, even if it did, it wouldn't.
Oh yeah, but you don't want to see it. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to sew this up. We're going to pink this edge and open it, but we're going to fold over and hem
there.
the upper part.
Right.
So why don't we take another commercial break, we come back, and then I'll show you how that gets put together.
We'll do that.
Okay, hi again. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be closing up the back seam. We're going to be using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to be stopping and back stitching 3 inches from the top of the skirt or the bodice. So basically that's going to be your opening in the back. So I'm using the trick with this tissue paper, and again it's a 1/4 inch. And you're going to see you need that. I'm running over pins again, Michael.
Unless we have a broken needle, we just keep moving.
Or my eye gets shot out.
You've got glasses on.
I know, over my protective wear. You see, this fabric really is very fine. Likes to jump around a little bit when it's going through the machine. Hence why I love hand sewing.
Well, yes, but you just saved a tremendous amount of time.
Yes.
And this has a lot of strength. So
There's a lot of strength.
you're learning how to deal with the machine.
Yes, and David just asked if we were friends now, and I think maybe, maybe she's starting to like me a little bit. I don't know if I don't have that touch. Okay, so this is the 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to want to pink the edge, as cleanly as you possibly can. Pink the edge. And try to do it evenly. Little bits and pieces here. Okay, so you're going to open up that seam. Let me just get this up here so you can see. And get rid of these little hangers on. You're going to open up that seam and you're going to press it open from the 3 inches all the way to the bottom. So you sort of like finger press it a little bit. Is this thing on? Okay. We have that nice open seam. At the top, what you're going to want to do, and you're going to want to trim off some of this little frayed bit. See what I said about handling this? It's very fine and it will.
But you have enough fabric that if you lose a couple rows, you're all right.
You're okay. So up at the top, what you're going to do is you're going to turn it over 1/8 and then another 1/8. So you're making a hem from the top to the point where your seam starts. So I'm going to do this the way I did the other hem. I'm just going to turn it over. It doesn't even have to be 1/8, it can be like a 1/16. This is probably more than a 1/16. And then you don't even have to pin it. You can just hold it with your fingers. You're going to turn it over and you're going to hem it again cleanly all the way to the bottom. I'm going to go through and I'm going to probably get rid of some of these little threads that are hanging there so it looks nice and clean, but that's what we're going to do next. You're going to do that on both sides of the garment.
And that's going to give it strength too.
It's going to give it strength. So I'm going to knot my thread. And I was thinking about this. I don't have a fancy way of knotting thread. I do it like this. If someone can show me, Deborah, if you can show me how you do your special knots in slow motion, I would really love that.
Well, I could show you.
Oh, you can show me? You know how to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't always know, but I learned from. Well, I've learned from all of them, so I've actually used how they. But you know what? You do what's comfortable for you.
I always like to learn something new.
Well, I'll show you because it's.
I like to learn.
Do you know how to do a French knot?
I do.
It's all it is.
But okay, well, maybe we can
do a French knot, but not as intense. Do it like maybe 4 or 5 times. Wrap around the needle, and then that's.
And pull it through.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. See?
I mean, I've had feedback from people that have been, you didn't know that. I know everything. And it's like, well,
how can someone know everything?
You don't know everything, Blanche.
Nobody knows everything.
I mean, every one of these classes I've learned some new technique, which it's why we do it.
Well, I have to say that I've been sewing since I was maybe 6, but I've learned more here than I did in all that time that I was self-taught.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you put together Deborah, Cheryl, Denise, all the people in the classes, Louise, that's a lot of experience.
It is.
And the nice thing is we've documented it so that it'll be, long after we're all gone, it'll be there somewhere online and people can refer to it.
Yeah, I kind of think of this as like the convent training for needlework.
Well, and we do have a rule that if you need to cry, you go outside. Just have a little cry. One time we had a lady who's a very good friend of ours, so she wouldn't mind my saying this. And she feels that she's highly accomplished sewer. And she is, but she came to a class and she got herself so upset that she went into the kitchen and let loose with David and finally said, I think you need some orange juice.
Oh, she had a little blood sugar issue?
You need some orange juice. Because she was her confidence just bottomed out. It's like, this is not a competition. And she went back and had a lovely day. And
so you see, this should really be a little neater, not all of these little pulled threads, which I'm pulling out, which you should also not do. But basically, I folded it, pressed it, folded it.
Beautiful little stitches.
Oh, thank you. And so then, rather than like starting a new piece or a new thread piece, I'm just going to go across.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And maybe do a little back stitches
Yep.
so that if
it locks it in. Yeah. I've only been sewing with thimbles, which I should really be using now. I don't know why I'm not doing it.
To me, I use them sometimes, but sometimes it's hard for me to. I mean, this is a small garment.
Oh, this is tiny.
I mean, we're making a garment that's an inch taller than a Barbie dress. So I mean, that's small.
Yeah. It is tiny, but I have to tell you, this little thing, which is the clover thimble, I don't know about you, but I stab myself in the same place.
I have a hole in my finger.
Oh, and with these tiny needles, which are so sharp.
And what size needle are you using?
I think it's a 11? No, is it?
No, let me see. Oh, that's a 10.
This is a 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a 10.
Yeah, and
it's my favorite size.
There's also one that you can get. This is a quilting needle. There's one that you can get that has a large eye that you don't have to use the threader with.
Well, I love my threader, so please don't. I don't know what I did with all the. I spent a half an hour trying to thread a needle. Now I have my little threader. The only thing that some people have a problem with the threader is that their needles are too old. It really won't
Yeah.
allow you to use an old needle.
And it won't allow you
Which,
to
by
use
the
a
way, you
large eye
shouldn't.
needle.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, hey, the large eye needle is not the problem.
Oh, it's true. You shouldn't have. Well, I don't know about you, but this is my new prescription I'm wearing, and I don't know. Maybe it's bad lighting at home, but
You got to have good lighting. I don't have the best lighting for my work spot.
well, I keep telling my partner every time I'm doing something, I'm like, "Did you lower the wattage in these bulbs because everything's very dim?"
Yeah.
He said, "No, you're just getting older."
Well, we get teased here that we're the oldies, so I take advantage of that. And sometimes when I am tired, I tell them that this old person needs someone to do my needles for me, and I make them do it.
Well, so folks,
They get to be so young and fabulous. I get to.
sometimes
So you
your
did that, you
basting
did your
stitches comes
placket,
out. I did the placket. I'm just going to rebase this on because I was being Speedy Gonzales or trying to be, and it came out.
But you probably need to do that stitch really up.
Yeah, actually,
Pretty within the seam allowance,
Right,
which I think is
yes.
an eighth. So it's got to be in.
There we go.
So now you're putting on the straps that are now gorgeous.
And you see a little bit of my blood on there, which is like why I wear a thimble. But I'll tell anybody I sew for, you will never find blood on anything I've ever done for you because it comes right out.
Well,
Okay.
there you go. Okay.
It's taking shape here. This is really a very beautiful cotton you're providing here. Very filmy.
Well, this whole era is very
Okay.
okay.
So you can see the sides have been hemmed, back seam has been opened. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be applying the back. I actually went a little bit over because sometimes I just like to have a little bit to work
Yeah,
with.
a little wiggle room.
Little wiggle rooms. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to be folding over your seam allowance on each of the short sides, and you're going to be pressing it. And if I can't burn my fingers off. So this is sort of like what you would do with a waistband.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Remember, you did a quarter on the back seam, so this is a little bit more than your eighth.
And you can adjust it as you go.
Yeah. So what I generally do is I do a little finger press. I find the center, and I find the center of the front, because you just want things to sort of line up. So you got your little finger press there.
You made your center.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I start from the center, and then you pin. Okay, so you can see what's happening here. You're basically sandwiching that shoulder strap in there, which is also going to make it stronger.
Yes.
And you are lucky that your
Are
side
we
seams.
lining up?
Well, I think this one probably could come in a little bit. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to sew across.
And then
Here.
you could do it afterwards.
Then you do it afterwards and then get a perfect fold, like you do sometimes with older garments.
I mean, we have instructions on how to do this, but if you have a technique that's going to work better, then you do your technique.
And then tell us about that technique so we
Yes.
could do it. Because everyone should share.
Yeah, well, we
knowledge.
have a whole group of people that are, I call them the helpers, that are always in it, helping, and
See, there's a
and they're
lot
doing
more
it
here.
nice.
So it's fine though. It's going to be okay. So
That's what scissors are for.
that's what scissors are for, because sometimes fabric stretches. Okay.
And if we might have, I think we folded over the placket one more fold than
Then
what was
necessary.
required, but it's fine.
Okay. So you've pinned it.
Because we've done it fancy.
We've done it fancy. We've pinned it, and I don't think I need to have the tissue paper because you've got a little bit of extra fabric there to dig into, so that should be
So
okay.
we'll sew that, and we'll come back and show them what we're going to do next with this.
The turnover.
Okay.
Great. So we have sewn, and you can clean this seam up a little bit probably. You'd want to trim it
a little bit.
but not too
Not
close.
too much, 'cause
yeah, it'll ravel or come apart. I'm sure you've all had that happen, and it's no treat.
Well, then we just have to redo it.
I know, but I don't like to redo things. Okay, so you basically seamed it right side to right side, encasing the strap. And what you're going to do is you're going to turn it over. Let me do it upside down. Take out my little basting stitch there. And you're basically going to turn it over. And then I've done this on one side just to show you how it looks.
Now you're going to turn the edge over.
You turn the edge over, so, look at it this way. See, you're just going to turn your edge over so you've aligned it with your finished back hem.
And that's really the rest of the sewing for this
Yep.
part of, because the lace is hanging loose in the inside of the garment.
Yeah, and, Michael had a really good point. Both on this finished garment, you see there's a little bit of lace here. I mean, they weren't wearing bras at this point, or really in much of a foundation garment at all. So this will give
built into the dress. So,
this will give a little bit of shape.
Yeah, but this wasn't really intended to do anything for. That would be in the dress.
Yep.
And then of course this type of a slip could go into the 1920s.
So,
So
you can actually see really pretty accurately here the right side of the lace and the wrong side of the lace. Do you see those little tufts?
Well, we won't.
I would read, if I was making this for somebody, I would tear it out, but
Well, we're making a sample, so
Yeah.
you're forgiven.
Thank
and
you.
And you don't have to do that on film again.
until the next time.
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to, I should have really rethreaded my needle.
Well, why don't you try my technique of doing the French knot and see if it works for
Yeah,
you?
let me try. And I'm not going to show you guys how blind I am. I'm going to use the needle thredder, which is
Oh, you're not going to try my technique?
Oh.
Oh no, you're going to thread it.
Oh, yeah,
and then
yeah.
You're going to do the knot. Okay,
Yeah.
let's see if you can do it. I mean, I when I say my technique, I learned it from one of our esteemed teachers.
So you're saying you wrap it around. Is that right?
About four or five times. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, now pull the whole thing through that.
Oop, pull the whole thing through that.
Pull the needle up through that with the thread.
Oh,
Now just
like that.
gotcha.
Oh no.
Wait, do it again. Let's do it till you get it.
Okay. So then, I guess because these needles are so small, you're pulling it.
You'll feel it with your fingers. You'll feel the knot.
No, it's not working for me, Michael. I told
No,
you.
you do. We're gonna keep doing it till you get it.
How much time do we have?
Okay, maybe push them down next to each other as you're doing it. There.
And then grab it?
Okay, then grab it.
No, I'm
No?
doing something wrong here. Let's see, maybe I'm going the wrong way.
It looks to me like you're doing it, but you may.
But I think I actually,
You let them go before you pull. them.
yeah. Sorry, folks,
Well, I will teach you, and then you'll show them.
Yeah, I've got very short little fingers, and
I mean, whatever works for you.
and this is the way I've always done it. But, I want to learn. So I'll practice very late at night, and I promise you in the next video I'll show you that I mastered it. So we're going to hide our knot.
Even Mason Jeffrey can learn
Even Mason
something.
Jeffrey needs to learn so much. And as I told you guys, I've learned more in the 2 years since I attended my first workshop than I knew previously. So you're just sort
Well,
of
it was
slipping it.
well worth your time.
Oh my God, it was the best. I would recommend it to anybody. And then you also get great food and great conversation.
And you're with your people.
And you're with your people. That's right. Okay, so I'm basically just sort of slip stitching this together, trying to be tiny and not go through the other side.
Yeah, you're doing beautiful, beautiful size stitches.
Well, that's how the nuns taught me.
Yeah. You better do it right or you'll be sorry.
But I'm telling you, I didn't go to Catholic school, but I might as well have for all the rigor.
Well, yeah, there's value in that.
And you said, who taught you how to sew, Michael?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother, but you also had a friend who was a tailor.
Oh, my aunt worked for Mr. Marchand, who was
Mr. Marchand.
a tailor in Carmel, and I would go and hang there. And I learned, I wouldn't say that I necessarily learned techniques, but I learned philosophies,
Oh, interesting.
which is don't ever bother working with cheap stuff.
Yeah, I think
And
about that all the
and I
time.
never, ever, ever will.
Yeah, why put the time in?
No.
And you know, I have to say, and this is going to sound horrible, but only maybe about 10 years ago did I first start buying like good quality fabric.
But didn't it make a difference?
It made a huge difference. I mean, the way that it handles, and I should have really buried that thread in there, but you might want to give
That's
us
all right. I will.
a little press.
This is a sample piece, so we're not putting it in competition.
Okay, so you're going to, you just want this nice clean edge here and a nice sharp edge. You're going to do that on the other side, and then you're going to press that edge. Just make sure that you've sort of worked it with your fingers to make sure that it's tight, and I'm going to clean that up too. So once we've done that, then we're going to put it on
Flora.
Flora, thank you, the brown eyes, and then
We're going to fit the straps.
we're going to fit the straps.
And
So
then I think we just have to do
the hem.
closures and the hem.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, we'll be back.
Hi, everybody. So we've made some progress on this since we last saw you. What we did was we encased, as you could see, we encased the front portion of the straps. We did that first, and then we fit it on the doll, and we just decided where it was going to sit. So, Michael made a very good point. This doll will probably have some décolletage, low-cut dresses. So it's sitting approximately right at the line of her bosom, and you'll see it when it's finished. So we've done that. Then the inside of the strap is just tacked down to the inside of the lining, trying not to get it to come through, even though you're going to have lace or some other trim that's going to be covering that. So what I'm doing right now is I gathered the header of the lace by pulling the thread, which I think is really effective, but there are other ways of gathering if you have a preferred way, like whipping the edge, or you could use whatever you want.
They can do this any way they like.
Any way you like. Or, as is shown in the sample, you could use the pleater, which gives you this really beautiful fluted effect.
And there's no right way or wrong way.
No, this is your creation, and you're having fun with it. And then I also just turned up the hem. I think it called for a 3/4 inch hem. I think this might be a little bit more. It's about an 1/8 turnover, and then folded up 3/4 and just hemmed by hand. You can see this one's done by machine, and if you're, if you don't have a love-hate relationship with your sewing machine, feel free to do that. So basically, I'm fitting this to the top. I do sort of, I'm guilty of liking to iron everything flat, but I think this is going to help fill out the top of her gowns with this little bit of fullness. You'll also see the little bit of lace that we put in the interlining.
Which actually really, if you turn it the other way, it really actually, when it's on, it looks really pretty because it's a little see-through. And you can see a design in it.
Yeah, it feels
Which is kind of
very
fun.
feminine. Yeah. So I think the one thing just to note is when you are fitting this before you basically do your hem, your kit's going to come with snaps. The snaps are on their way from another.
They're on a boat.
They're on a boat. They're in the middle of the
We
Atlantic
checked
right now.
today. There's like 700 of them coming.
So because this is a hook and eye, and there was going to be a hook and a thread loop, this really doesn't need to overlap that much. But if you are doing a snap, you're going to want at least 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah, and they're small, but they're still, you're going to need them.
Yeah, so you're going to want that. And I'm going to put one, if you were doing snaps, I put one here and then one probably in the center of that opening.
And by the way, people think of snaps as something from the 50s, but snaps were around in the 1860s, and really by the 1890s they were totally in common use. And the World War I era, it's hooks and eyes and snaps and buttons and you name it, they used it all.
I will say that Michael did teach me how to do that knotting technique, and I'm going to try to do it now if it doesn't take me 15 minutes, because I feel very proud of myself that that I was finally able to figure this out.
Well, I taught you something, but somebody taught me, so I'm paying it forward.
Oh, let's see. It better work,
It worked.
or there's going to be hell to pay. Ah, see, guys? Look at that.
You did it.
An old dog can learn new tricks.
But I would have made it shorter.
It would have made it shorter.
Yeah, because you're gonna.
It's a big knot.
Let's see how long your arms are. See, that's long.
I know, I'm guilty of that. I do a very long...
Way before your time, there was a doll costumer that I never have seen someone so trim on with such a long thread, and she never knotted it off.
What?
So that if you snipped it anywhere, all the trim would come off.
That sounds
It's
horrible.
just crazy.
That sounds horrible. So I'm actually just going to whip this to the top because I don't want to...
Yeah, it's not, I think that's what I would recommend for this
Yeah.
technique.
If I can just get my thread to behave because it's too long. See, that's why you have to come to these workshops, because you learn things about thread length. And I remember Denise Beacey saying how you should, or maybe it was Deborah, I'm getting them confused, how you can, you should always thread your needle the way it comes off of the spool, because the thread remembers that, I guess, the coil, and it won't snag and knot, and it's really true. If you put it in the right way, you won't have those horrible knots.
We have one of our attendees of our workshop, they actually own a thread factory.
Wow.
So when they say it, they mean it.
Well, that's...
And they do industrial, they're the big manufacturer.
So we're just going to continue this way around the neckline, keep it fluffy,
Delicate.
If it was me, it would be flat as a pancake, but this is not.
Well, this is kind of the era where we want
some
fluffy.
flounce. And I did wear my bulldog shirt in honor of the children that you hear snoring in the background today.
And whining and crying.
But they've been pretty good.
They've been good.
Yeah, it's Annabelle's the one who's the raucous bulldog.
Well, she's actually, for her, she's pretty relaxed. She's having a nice dream.
So once I finish this up, when it's finished and the hooks and the thread loops have been put in, remember you're going to be doing snaps. We will show it to you, and then we're going to move on to the pantalettes.
All right. Well, we'll be back.
So here we are, the finished product. I think that you can see that we've done a little bit more work. We've done the little ribbon bow at the front, which is really feminine and charming. And here's the effect that Michael was talking about, where you could see a little bit of that lace underneath. It's almost like a little brassiere-like. You will be getting snaps. I'm not really
We just
crazy.
use, yeah,
we use those.
that we've got.
And it'll be, again, when you do that, make sure you've got enough of an overlap because you don't really need that much of an overlap with the hooks and thread loops.
And I'm really happy with the straps. I think using the lace really finished that really nicely.
Yeah, it's very pretty. So we're going to move on to the pantalettes now.
All right, so we will get that prepared, and we will be back, and we will show you how to make the pantalettes.
Hi. So what we're doing here is there is a front and a back to the pantalettes, and just make sure that you remember which one is which.
Can you hold that up?
Sure.
Please.
The back is higher and longer, so that is going to be left open. Right now you're going to be sewing right side to right side the front seam, which is the seam here.
Two front seams together.
Yes. So basically what we've done is we've sewed this seam together using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And you don't really have to do this, but this fabric frays very easily. You could sew this with a French seam if you wanted to, but I'm just going to do a quick
Or you could cut it
overcast
out with
the pinking shears.
yeah. But you can do this the way that you're comfortable with it. And I think you'd have enough material if you even wanted to do, again, this with a French seam, you could, although that would be awfully uncomfortable for Fanny.
Yeah, she'd get a little bunched up there.
Yeah.
I don't know if she'd enjoy
having
that.
a thong.
Okay, so I'm just going to trim this
You
off.
just did a basic overcast.
Basic overcast. I mean, it doesn't have to be tight, tight little stitches. If this was a real garment, obviously it would have been finished and probably French seamed because it would have been washed often. So our next step is to do the hems for the bottom of the pantalettes. I'm going to press this seam to one side just to make it nice and sort of sharp. Okay. But basically the hem is very simple. You're just going to be turning this up approximately 1/8 of an inch, pressing it, and then you're turning it up again. You see how the pattern is cut? Mm-hmm. So basically it just shows you where it should go into line. It goes into line. So we're going to do that, and I will show you a little bit of that pressing just so you can sort of see how it might work. Now that's a little bit more than 1/8, but you really aren't that concerned about that being exact because you really want the bottom to be the exact dimension. And if you really want things to be perfectly aligned, which you normally should, I know that some of the instructors use these tools. This is really invaluable.
It helps, yeah.
Yep, that's pretty close. It's 1/2 inch actually. So I'm going to press the middle seam open. And you might want to trim out some of the fuzzies and have that be a little bit cleaner, but you just want this to have a nice,
Yeah, that looks really nice.
flat seam. So I'm going to now just do a simple hem. I'm going to try my Michael Canadas knotting technique.
It's not mine. I didn't.
You said it was yours.
No. I learned. Well, it's mine because it.
I'm kidding.
We're here, but no. One of.
See, I'm not...
I don't know which one of our instructors taught me, but
I think it might have been Deborah. So I did
I
very.
think it might have been.
She had a very fancy way of doing it, which I could never catch.
I think it's because she does it too fast. But it could have been Cheryl, but it could have been Deborah. Do you know, honestly, I don't watch the videos after we've done them.
You don't ever?
I don't.
Well,
I don't.
I have to tell you.
I mean, there's sometimes I have to remember something, then I'll go back and watch them. But I figured that I was there for, 5 days.
And that was enough.
Well, it's not, I've enjoyed every single one of the ladies and all the time we're here. And I'm looking forward to them all coming back, but I move forward. How's that?
Yeah, I just don't like to see pictures or videos of myself. So
well,
I probably
it's
won't
too late
be watching
for that now.
I know. I try to keep my low profile. I just constantly post anything I'm sewing because I
Well,
love,
think people love to see projects.
I love
and
sharing it with all of you.
I love I love creative, whatever it is. I sit and watch oil painting restorations, and lots of things like that. I actually don't cook, but I love to read cookbooks,
Really?
and I love to read the directions, and I love to look at photographs of the food on plates. But I'd rather do about anything than cook.
Yeah, I'm not the cook in the family. You'd think I would be with the last name Cook, but I'm not a good cook.
Yeah, so I think people do love to see the creative process. I know I do.
Well, I love when people do it too. I love seeing things in progress. I love seeing things finished.
But have you ever noticed there's some people that we only get to see them starting it? We never get to see them. I want to see the end thing.
I know. I always want to see every bit of it.
See, I'm very determined. I don't start something unless I finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to press up the other.
And you did a beautiful job. Can you hold that up so they can see how it looks? Great work.
Yeah, I mean, it's hanging out
That's
a little
why
bit there,
you're
but we're going to...
Mason Jeffrey.
Mason Jeffrey, yeah. I'm going to trim it a little bit just to even it out, and that will be caught in the
Well,
seam.
we'll go do the other leg, and then we'll be back.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So we had closed up the front seam previously. We had turned up the hem. Again, you can do this by machine or by hand. I prefer to do hand. What we're going to do now is we're going to create a small hem on the back opening. So this is going to be kept open. This is how the doll's going to get in and out. And I think this was actually practical for
the time?
For the time. This is like just a practical thing for ladies. So we're going to do that.
But we did something different.
Yes, we actually, we starched this. And the reason to starch is, if you can see how I'm turning this over, it really makes it so much easier to turn over these small little turns.
Because we want this to be elegant.
Yeah, I mean, you
can do this by machine if you've got that kind of control, but we're going to do this by hand, aren't we?
And as you know, I can't do that by machine. So,
Yes, you can.
No, I can't.
Yes, you can.
Maybe with some practice. I'm going to be going home and practicing after this. But you see how it's nice? It's almost like it becomes like a paper-like fold, and it keeps its shape.
And it's just regular old starch.
It's just regular old starch. So we're going to be folding this over, and I should have had a needle already threaded. Well, there's nothing on there. So you're going to have to wait for me to thread.
We're going to watch and see if you can do it again.
Don't.
Let's do it.
It's
Let's
too
see
much
if you can
pressure.
Do it again.
It's too
you
much
can do it.
pressure. Oh, I don't know why this makes me so anxious.
Okay, you can do it. You got it. Mm-hmm. You got it.
I didn't do it. See, the pressure is getting to me.
Because
It's
you
peer
gotta
pressure.
Hold that little ball on when you make the little loop. Yeah, you're doing that. Okay. And then when you're done, you got to kind of pass it off. Mm-hmm. And then
It's just like my knitting. It's too tight.
you got it. Now that should have worked. Did that work?
Yes, it did.
Okay. See.
Actually, it did. I'm surprised it did, but it did. Thank you for believing in me.
You can do it.
Okay, so.
But once you get it, it's a big time-saving thing.
Yeah, I mean,
And
even
you don't have to have eyesight to do it. You can do it by feel.
by feel, yeah. Well, I'm losing my eyesight. So I think, you don't need to pin this. You can just,
No.
with the starch, it folds over really beautifully and it keeps its shape. Come on now.
So what kind of stitch have you decided to do? Just a little running stitch?
I'm going to do a little hem in the back.
Okay.
That's going to be buried anyway.
I mean, I think either one would be fine. And if you hear little sounds in the background, Bixby and Annabelle are in the room,
Licking and chewing.
and chewing and other things.
Yeah. Oh my God, it sounds like she's eating a steak.
Well, she makes a lot of sounds.
I love those sounds. It's so cute.
I've often thought that we could do like monster, if we needed monsters for a movie, just film her sounds that she makes.
Well, she would be a lovable monster. Okay.
Well, it's easier to deal with them in the room than having them not in the room,
Oh,
because then we have to deal with separation anxiety and why are we being excluded?
oh yeah. Well, with our dog, if she's not in the room, we know there's trouble. Okay, so let me just open.
We kind of have that too.
Like if she's not, if we can't see her or hear her,
She's up to something.
she's up to something. We know she can get up to a lot.
Well, ours are pretty good, except that if you leave a bag out in the apartment and if they think about it, they will go up and rummage through it.
Oh, well, I would go up and run and rummage through
Oh, no,
it too.
they will go through a bag. They will. It's not that they necessarily were hurt anything. They have no boundaries.
They're curious. Yeah. Oh, she's really enjoying whatever it is she's doing back there. Okay, so we're going to do this on the other side. And then the next thing we're going to do, and I'll show it to you. We want to.
And then we can get it done and come back and show them the finish.
I think that one thing just to say is that I probably overpress a lot of things, but I just have this voice in my head. It's my mother saying.
Pressing is very important.
She said, "Press as you go, press as you go." So I
Well, I think that's in
constantly.
your kit too, of how to. Not that you need it, but
So then you got this
now that's looking really good.
nice flat
That's very well done.
little
Jeff.
opening. Thank you. And then really the starch makes a huge difference. You might
And maybe
even
want
want
to start the whole project that way.
you might want to start your fabric
Yeah.
before you cut. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do
I
this.
think I will amend the directions and put that.
Yeah,
in.
it's much easier. I mean, the fabric is so fine.
We're used to suffering, but should the public suffer along with us?
So the next thing that we're going to do, and maybe I'll just talk it through
I
with
think
you.
we need to talk about the lace.
I'm
that
sorry.
should
Yes,
be
the
next
lace. You're
thing.
right. I forgot.
The
So
next thing, the lace.
So in your kit, you're going to have enough lace to do whatever you want with it, but we used a little bit more
We did use a lot more.
here and in
The
gathering a little
straps,
bit.
The straps
And
and
the
the inner,
straps and the inner. That's right, the inner.
which was not. That's quite a few inches that we've
Yeah.
taken out of the
And
thing.
again, you don't need to do those things. They're just a little.
But it's so pretty.
It is a
I mean,
very
I do mine all
delicate.
like that.
So what we decided to do, and to make sure that I'm using the right side of this, is we decided to lay the lace flat here across each opening.
Because they're not actually, as you can see from the length that we've done, it's not actually showing.
No.
So, I mean, the way the original plan was that it's ruffled or pleated, but we'll do it on the flat, and then there'll be a tiny bit left over, not much to do anything.
Yeah, so if you're going to do it on the flat, what I did was I just divided it in half and cut it in half just to make sure that I had enough. But you probably could just take your full length, start at one end, have a little bit of overlap, have it hang over the edge a little bit, and with a running stitch, sew it on the top through the header, and then trim it, and then start it again here, and then you might have a little bit more left
you might
over.
have to do a little headdress or something like that.
Yeah. So I'm going to sew this down, and then we're going to talk about and finish this back hem, and then we're going to talk about how it gets put together, which is a very simple seam that runs through these legs.
All right, we'll do that, and we'll be back.
Okay, now that we've applied the lace, just very simple running stitch. You can have it be wherever you want it to be. It can go further down, it can be further up, wherever you want it to be. It can be ruffled. And finishing these back hems, we're going to close the legs up. So what's basically going to happen, you're going to see a little lace is hanging over the edge here. That's fine because you're going to trim that off. You're just going to align the inside leg seams like so. Like this. And you're going to do the same thing on this side. Getting these little fluffies out of the way. And so, you know, when you're applying lace and you're applying it flat, you can close the leg up. You can apply it before you close the leg. If you're doing a ruffled lace, you're going to want to not do that.
Yeah, you trim it after.
You're going to trim it after. So you're going to see there's a little gap here. That's fine because that's just going to be closed, well, not closed up. But what we're basically going to be doing is we're going to be sewing across here, across this opening. Let me make sure the pin stays in. And then we're going to do a really simple overcast just to make sure there's no fraying there. And that basically is the basic shape of your pantalette. So back, front, this is inside out, but I think you get the picture. So we're going to close up the seam, and then going to show you how to fit this to your doll, because it basically needs to have some tucks put into it at the back and at the front. So it will sort of move it in. Rather than gathering it, you're going to be doing a little tuck. And
That keeps it flatter, which is we want a very cylindrical look.
Yes.
This era.
So we'll sew that up. I'll overcast it, trim it and overcast it. Turn this inside out, and then we'll try it on our doll, and we will look at the waistband at that time too, which has been cut out.
We'll be back.
So here we are with the inside seam sewn, as you can see.
And you overcast those too?
Actually, I did overcast them, yes.
Yes.
I forgot I had overcast them.
And you use the machine too?
Yeah, I used the machine for the inside seam, not for the overcasting.
And it actually looks really nice through, you know,
Thank you.
from what we can see from this side.
So this is something that needs to be fitted. In the pattern, you basically need to put this on your doll at sort of where you want it on the waistline. Stand up straight. And you will be taking 1/4 inch fold over tucks on either side of the front. You're going to be doing the same thing on the back. Here, it's a little less than 1/4 because I think I probably used a little bit more in the turnover
That's
here.
all right. There's
But it's just basically to cinch in the waist a little bit, give it a little bit of fullness, but still it's
enough room to sit.
enough room to sit. Yep, she can dance the night away in these. So we're going to now take them off.
And we're going to baste them in place,
We're
aren't
going
we?
to baste them in place, as it says in the instructions. And then we're going to apply the waistband. So one thing I'm just going to maybe briefly talk about is I also starched this. This is something I like to do, and I think I've seen this in a couple of different instructional videos. You find the center, but before you do that, you put a crease down
Yeah,
the
makes
top.
it just nice.
Makes it easier and crisper to work with. You're going to place this on the center once your
It's determined.
pleats, yes, once your pleats have been basted, and you're going to sew it in place, probably an 1/8 inch seam, and then we'll come back and we'll show you how to finish off the waistband. Hi again. So I'm going to show you this, talk you through it a little bit. So you remember we had pinned these tucks. I took just a few basting stitches through each one just to secure it. Then I pressed them just so they would lie nice and flat. The waistband, as I said before, I folded it in half before it was sewn, directly in half, and I pressed it. So we have this nice sharp line at the top. Then I centered the waistband on the center of the pantalette, and then sewed it with an 1/8 inch seam. This is actually a trimmed seam, but it's sewn with an 1/8 inch seam
And you
allowance
did that on the machine
on the machine. I'm so
without
proud.
without any incident.
There was no drama there. And then basically what you can see is this is what it looks like before you've folded it over for a second time. So what you're going to do on the end is you're going to fold it in.
And you've got that little bit because we're going to need that for the strength.
Yes.
When we put the snaps on it.
Yep. And also, again, that's a good point because this was sized so it would meet for a hook and a thread loop. You're going to need more of an overlap for a snap. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take up that seam allowance on the bottom and you're going to fold it over and you're going to pin it in place. And that little fold at the top, that little press fold just helps you sort of maintain some, I guess, regularity or the same distance. It just gives you a nice crisp finished edge. You're going to want to just fold it. And the starching, I have to say, really had made this so much more.
Yes, I'm going to recommend
pleasurable.
that they just, before they cut it out, they starch the whole piece. It'll just make it
It's
easy.
such a fine, beautiful fabric.
But I wanted to see if you'd leave here crying or not.
No, well, as I said, I'll be crying tonight in the dark by myself, or maybe in the shower, you know, where nobody can hear my sobs. So what we're going to do now is we're going to close up the sides and slip stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch it across the bottom of the waistband.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll do that and we'll come back and then we'll do the last, I guess, we're almost done with this part.
Well, we're all finished. Just to point out some things, we thought it would be cute to put some silk bows on the side of the pantaloons. And
Pantalettes.
Pantalettes, that's right. A pantaloon is longer, isn't it? Or is it for a child?
Pantaloons for a boy.
Okay, for a boy. See?
Pantalettes.
Okay, for a pantalette. And we top stitched the waistband for added
We
strength.
didn't. You did. And
I did.
You used the machine and you did a really, I can't even, it's so perfect. I can't even get the camera to focus on it, but you did a great job.
And then this is the hook and thread loop closure, but you're going to be using a snap. And when you do use the snap, make sure when you're fitting it, you've got enough
A little
overlap.
extra.
Yeah, maybe like 3/16 or something.
How many stitches per inch did you use for the top stitch?
Well, you know what? I started with like 35.
Oh, okay.
And then went to 10.
10,
So I
okay,
figured out, okay, that's not right.
Yeah.
But there we go.
And
It was
then-
fun.
All right, so we have got the underwear completely done. So
Yes.
we'll get her dressed, and then when we will be back, we're going to start on the gown.